Hey there, my name is Brian. After many years of building with Angular, I'm here to help you level up your skills and build better apps. Today, we're building a dynamic checkbox form in Angular using Reactive Forms. We'll allow users to select multiple values from a list and display the selected values in real time. Then, we'll take it a step further by adding a Select All checkbox so users can toggle everything at once. Let's get started. To start off, I've already got a basic Angular application. I've created a basic form component and already included it in the root app component. This component is super basic, as you can see. All we have is this states array here. Let's take a look at what this data actually looks like. Here we can see that this is an array of data representing the 50 states. In a real-world scenario, this data would likely come from an API, meaning that this data would be dynamic. What we're going to do is use the Reactive Forms module in Angular to create a dynamic list of checkboxes out of this data. Now, with a basic form control in Angular, you'd normally just create a form control statically, but in this case, we need to dynamically create a backing control for each state. Creating these options as Angular form controls makes it so Angular will track each checkbox's state automatically. So first, we need to create what is known as a form group in Angular. This is essentially a programmatic container for an Angular form which allows us to track and monitor state of a set of Angular form controls. So let's begin by creating a form property for this form group. Since this will be a container for all of our dynamic checkbox fields, we need to now add an Angular control for each of the states within this form group. So we'll iterate over the states from the list. And when we do, we add an Angular form control for each object. The name for each of the controls will be the value from the state object. The initial value for each of the controls will be false. Okay, at this point, we've created an Angular form group with a control for each item in our dynamic data. Now, we just need to wire these controls up in our template to create the UI. But before we can do this, we're going to use some directives from the Reactive Forms module, so we need to import this module first. Okay, now let's start by adding a form element. On this form, let's add the form group directive to connect up the form group that we created. This is the container for all of our checkbox form controls, so now we can use a for block to iterate over the states in the list. Within this loop, let's add some basic markup for each of the state options in the list. And let's add a checkbox input. These inputs will be the Angular controls for our form group. We can mark them as such with the form control name directive from the Angular Reactive Forms module. And when we created the controls in the group, we used the state object value as the name. So that's what we need to use here too, in order to bind the Angular form control to the input. Okay, at this point, we should have a functioning form group. But in order to better understand what's going on, we're going to add a little bit more to this example. First, let's switch back to the TypeScript. What we need now is we need a way to display the states that the user selects so that we know that things are functioning correctly. So let's create a getter function that extracts the selected states from our form. This function checks which states have a value of true in our form and returns a list of selected states. Now let's move on to the template and add this data to the UI. We'll add a div, and then we'll add the string interpolated value from this getter function that we just added. Okay, that should be everything we need. Let's save and let the project refresh. Now, if we check a few checkboxes, we should see the states appear in the selected values list. Nice. And if we uncheck them, they should disappear. Cool. So this is all pretty neat, isn't it? We have a dynamic list of data, and we've used this data to create a dynamic list of Angular reactive form controls. But selecting multiple checkboxes one by one is tedious. Let's improve this by adding a Select All checkbox that will toggle everything at once. In order to do this, we're going to add another Angular form control. So let's switch back to the component TypeScript. Let's start by adding a new property called Select All. Okay, we are going to create this control as a form control directly, and we'll add it outside of the other form group because we won't be concerned with the state of this control as far as our form data is concerned. We'll set the initial value to false. Now we need to add some logic to toggle all of the checkboxes when the value of this control changes. To do this, let's add a new function called toggleAll. This function will need a parameter for whether the field is checked or not. Okay, now within this function, we can again iterate over the list of states using the forEach method. Now, for each state, we can access its individual form control using the get method on the form group by passing the state's value as the control name. Okay, so this gives us programmatic access to the controls. So now we can use the setValue function to programmatically set the value. For this value, we'll pass our checked parameter, and we'll set emidEvent in the control options to false to prevent triggering unnecessary form change events. Now we just need to call this function when the select all control value changes. Let's add a constructor. Next, let's access the select all form control. Here, we can use the value changes method. This method returns an observable that fires every time the control value changes. Next, since this function returns an observable, we want to add the takeUntilDestroyed method to properly clean up the subscription when the component is destroyed. Finally, we can subscribe to this observable and call our toggleAll function, passing the checked value of the control. Now, whenever the Select All checkbox is checked or unchecked, our function will automatically update all checkboxes. Now that our logic is ready, let's update the template to display the Select All checkbox at the top of the form. We'll add similar markup to the state checkbox items so that it will look right. And this time, we'll use the form control directive to bind to our select all control. Okay, that should be everything we need. Now, let's save and refresh the project. Now, clicking Select All should check every checkbox in the list. Nice. Also, unchecking it should uncheck everything. That's cool. And checking individual boxes should still work independently from Select All. And just like that, we've built a fully functional dynamic checkbox form in Angular. And that's it. Today, we created a dynamic checkbox form using reactive forms, allowed users to select multiple checkboxes, displayed selected values in real time, and added a Select All checkbox for bulk selection. And best of all, this method is scalable and flexible. If you found this tutorial helpful, like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.